Are now rolling, and over to you.
My name is Ryan, this is Jenifer, and this is our final major project. For our brief, for this project we have been asked to make a short film between the time limits of 30 seconds to 4 minutes, display the theme of dreams and nightmares, and we are sort of left to incorporate that theme into our idea, which allows us to interpret the brief as we choose, as long as it will be reasonable and can be evidenced and evaluated through primary, secondary and competitor research.
So for our idea, we had a working class teenager who wakes up one day from a nightmare that he left him in tears. He then gets out of bed, goes downstairs to talk to his mum. He tells his mum about his dreams of being wealthy and moving out into a better house someday. She then sends him on a shop run to get some milk, as you do if you're running out of milk. And while he's out there, he decides to get a lottery ticket. As he walks home, he scratches his card and realises he's won a jackpot of $1 million. As you would, he celebrates very loudly in the middle of the street. However, due to him celebrating loudly, a nearby thug hears him and decides to mug him for his lottery ticket. Because the teen struggles, the thug then decides to shoot him and kill the teen so that he can take off with his ticket. The teen is seen on the floor trying to crawl back to his home as the milk spills on the floor. However, the teen decides his time has come to an end and rolls over and looks at the sky before he closes his eyes. However, momentarily opens them straight after, and it turns out he's back at home in his bed, freaking out from a nightmare, which then start again, if you understand. And this is how we incorporated the theme of dreams and nightmares, because it's a recurring nightmare which he wakes up from. So yeah. Target audience?
For our short film, Jenifer and I have decided to limit our audiences to the age of 15 to 20, simply because some of these problems/struggles the main character is going through can be very relatable to them, and therefore we've decided to sort of base it and target a younger audience to certify a 15 short film. Should certify it at, that's the one I was talking about. We have also decided our primary target gender will be males, because we have found violence appeals more to men rather than women. However, this may not be entirely true, but it's common to see this happen. And it would also link the violence currently happening in London, as the crime rate and violence rate has fluctuated very drastically over the past few years. And so we are considering to show this to our young target audience, to try to deter them, to show them that they're ruining not only their lives but someone innocent's life as well. And that's why Jenifer and I could make a short film that our target audience can relate to and learn from. Our short film will predominantly revolve around Western and culture, and the class of our target audience will vary from, as the youth of Chelmsford may potentially have better standard of life than a youth from London.
So our experimentations?
I'll be using colour grading to change the mood of what the audience feels, and in a sense I'm kind of being like the auteur in that sense. Speed manipulation for one of the shots where the milk hits the ground and kind of shows his life hitting rock bottom and being destroyed. And I'm going to be using Walter Murch's rule of 6, which is having certain cues to cut footage to make it more impactful for the audience.
And my experimentation will be the snorri cam, 180-degree roll and pull focus. I wanted to really have like a variety, because I'm doing cinematography for my final major project. I haven't really experimented, so I thought doing these three will really benefit our short film and make it look better. Inspirations?
Inspirations and intentions for this project. For this project, Jenifer and I took inspiration from the classic film Boys in the Hood, made in 1993, specifically when Ricky gets shot, which is one of the characters who has like a promising future. He's struggling right now, but however, he's working towards something better, and he finally gets his breakthrough, which is obviously being having a scholarship for football, for his football scholarship, and also he just had a lottery ticket in his hands conveniently for us when he was murdered, and he got brutally shot and killed due to the theme of this project. We decided that that was the nightmare that we wanted to show in our short film, and the dream would be obviously the character winning the lottery. And although in Boys in the Hood it doesn't show Ricky necessarily winning the lotto, it shows for the sake of our narrative our protagonist will win theirs. But yeah, in the actual movie it doesn't show him winning the lottery, so we just kind of had to make that adaptation for ourselves.
And our specialism, my specialism for the final major project would be cinematographer and producer, and my partner Ryan's specialism will be editor and director. For equipment, we have a DSLR camera, tripod. So we'll probably have 2 tripods and 2 cameras, because I have a tripod and a camera as well. Some batteries, Premiere Pro, a gimbal, zoom mic, and a boom pole for extra sound.
Inspirational examples, obviously, as previously mentioned, Boys in the Hood, Paid in Full, Menace to Society, Juice, and The Barbershop, as they all show the struggles that youth, not entirely the youth, but the struggle that people struggle and what they have to go through when they're not exactly necessarily advantaged in life, and it all shows the theme of them trying to better themselves and get somewhere better in life. And most of them ending up, like for example, Kane from Menace to Society dying at the end just before moving away, moving out of his where all this violence was occurring, and Paid in Full, where one of the characters gets betrayed by their own friend due to money and greed.
So yeah, this then links to our narrative, because the mugger only shot him because of his greed, which our protagonist had because he won his lottery ticket. So it relates equally to all these films.
Any questions?
Is this taking place in England?
Yes, I do remember she said dollars at the end.
Oh yeah.
That was a common mistake.
Did I say dollars?
Yeah.
Oh,
And
sorry.
We meant pounds.
as well. Would it be a good idea
Well,
to
nowadays, due to the current violence in London, getting a hold of a gun in London is actually very common nowadays. It's very easier than it was back a few years ago. So we're trying to show this by letting him have that there. Any other questions?
What's a snorri cam?
Snorri Cam, have you seen Requiem for a Dream?
I don't know.
Have you seen, so you know that camera effect where it looks like the camera is attached to the body and it's only filming the face walking
Face
around, and that's all it's filming, that's its focus
Like
on.
having a body
That's a
cam.
Snorri Cam, yeah.
POV.
Yeah. Anything else?
I noticed that most of the inspirations that you've got are 90s movies,
Yeah.
which I thought was interesting, considering that you very kind of clearly tied a lot of your concerns to very kind of 21st century concerns.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting that the vast majority of the movies that you listed as inspirations were from the 90s. Is there any particular reason for that? Do you feel that there was a connection with that material that's not there with more recent
We're just
times?
trying to sort of give like an awareness, because although this was the 90s and it was, a few years back, not that many, but not as recent. It shows that although some people just think that those times have just died down, it really hasn't. Like,
It's
if you
still
scratch the
ongoing.
surface, it's just as bad, even worse at this point. And it's just getting ridiculous, and so that we just want to raise awareness and show people and open their eyes as to the fact that this hasn't ended at all and is very much alive and kicking.
I think the 90s, the films are like an exaggerated version of what we're going to show, but it doesn't take away from the fact that it is still happening and that it can happen. And we do enjoy the films as well, so they're good films.
And the one other point I was going to make was in Boys in the Hood.
Yeah.
Why do you feel that they elected to not make it a explicitly winning lottery ticket in that? And what do you feel is the change of meaning from that incident in that film to the far more explicit? This is a winning lottery ticket. What, in terms of the subtext of that, what do you feel the alteration that you have made to that inspiration point has done to the narrative?
Okay, so with Boys in the Hood, I reckon with Ricky, obviously it doesn't necessarily show that he'd won or lost. Sorry for burping. It just kind of shows that anything can happen to these people struggling. That they're either very lucky or not lucky at all. And in Ricky's case, he wasn't lucky at all because if he would have won, he would have celebrated, but then he would have been pumped to the back by a shotgun.
Yeah,
so it just shows how unfortunate the people that are less advantaged feel about themselves. That's what they make themselves feel. They feel that they don't necessarily get lucky. That it's not that they will never get lucky enough to better their lives. However, although all that happens, Ricky bought the lottery ticket because he wants to actually, regardless of the statistics against him, he still wants to make it out.
It's hope.
Yeah, and it's hope, that we have that, and so that's what we use for our project, because that hope is just stripped away by someone else that sort of is desperate enough to take someone else's life in order to gain that dream for himself. And
I
it
think the
shows
fact that
selfishness.
the fact that the film doesn't show whether he wins or he wins the money is it's sadder. Because you don't know it, because he possibly could have made it out, but then his outcome was bad either way. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, I think that's kind of sad.
Yeah. Anything else?
Any others? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How did you use your time?
Yeah, you were 7 minutes 30 on the main thing. Brought the whole